our title is Attract More Buyers using your personal story. A lot of people wonder what that means, and so we're going to be digging into that today. Standing out in a crowded business marketplace. As we all know, social media is overwhelming for many. It's noisy, and having your personal story in a way that's very different than what you might think story is going to make you stand out. And I will say that as you do this and develop your story and you start showcasing it online, then you're also going to be ahead of the pack, so to speak. Anything you want to add, Michael?
No, I think it's about being different, really. Everybody's situation on social media looks very much the same, and by using story, you are going to be able to stand out from the crowd, basically.
Right, exactly. And it's also a slow dance. It takes some time. This is, as you tell your story and people start to see it, it's not like it's going to make your business jump by leaps and bounds overnight, but it is going to work for you in the long run as you build relationships online. So welcome, everybody. We do have 2 free gifts for you today. So Jenny will put the link to this right here for the Tell Your Story ebook, which is my ebook. It's about 6 pages, and it walks you through some exercises that will help you to identify your own story, because everybody wonders where they want to start. And of course, everybody thinks they don't have a story. But everybody does. Right, Michael?
Totally. Yeah. Everybody has a story.
Yes. And you may not realize the story you have.
And so, a lot of people say, oh, well, my story is really boring, but it is to you, but not to everybody else who hears it.
Right. So here is Michael's free gift, his ebook, which is incredible. It's very valuable. It's pretty in-depth. Michael, do you want to just give a little teaser about it or a little more info?
Yeah, sure. I mean, really, I'd like to tease out in this little ebook why it's so important and what happens in the brain as well, which we will talk about a little bit in a few minutes. But I think people need to understand why it is important, because we are all totally familiar with storytelling, but we don't really intellectualize it. So I think here is an opportunity, and it's not a very big ebook either. So it just allows you to just understand the concept of why it is important.
Right. Great. Thanks, Michael. So as you are on here today, give yourself the gift of investing in yourself here. And it's completely up to you, but maybe turn off some of the notifications and things in the background, Skype, iTunes, or anything like that. Silence your phone, close your door, let people know that you're doing something for you. And if anybody out there is inclined to tweet about what you're learning today, the hashtag is standout, as my business name is Standing Out Online. And you can see Michael's and my Twitter handle at the top. I'm at kpayne66, and Michael is at Staying Alive UK. So you are in the right place today. If you're not telling your story in your business so that you can stand out from your peers, the industry visionaries who you look to and you want to be seen as one, and stand out amongst them as well. And the whole point of this too is that you're really going to be creating compelling marketing content that will actually lead to lead to relationships, which can bring in customers. And marketing content can be both the messaging side, the written piece, which is what I'm going to address today. And then it can also be the visual side, which is what Michael is going to talk about today. And you don't choose one over the other. You try to have a nice balance of both. You are in the right place if you're willing to be consistent and committed to building a unique digital footprint. Using your social media, using the blog on your website, posting long-form articles on LinkedIn, trying to reach even journalists if you can. Being consistent and committed for you is what's going to work. And you're in the right place if you want to develop your personal story, which you already own. And again, like Michael said, you may not even realize that your story is one that's extraordinary. So what you think is ordinary is actually extraordinary. Again, so you can stand out. So no matter where you are, we'll have definitely something to help you today. The bonus gifts at the end, if you stay through to the end, are incredibly valuable. They include a lot of one-on-one time with me and Michael on a free basis. So stick with us if you can today. And then we'll have a really rich Q&A at the end. So today's game plan, we're going to talk about your slice of life story to build out your personal story, how to use whiteboard animation and other storytelling assets to really, really make your digital footprint robust and rich, showcase your thought leadership. For those of you who are not familiar with the term thought leadership, it's what many of us have always referred to as subject matter expert. So a lot of people try to build their thought leadership to be a go-to expert on their topic, their niche, and using their story to enrich that. And then positioning your personal story and personal brand. We're going to be talking about both today. Michael and I sort of feel like your personal story is something you want to identify first, and then that can strengthen your personal brand, which is your reputation. And then we'll give you some next steps to make it all happen. So as I mentioned, Q&A time will be at the end. Please feel free, if you have a burning question in the middle of something, feel free to put it in the chat, and Jenny will pop in if it's a burning question. If it's something that can wait till the end, we will be sure to answer your questions at the end. So a little about me. It's not all about me, but I want you all to know, who don't know me, a little bit about me and a little bit about my story. So basically what I'm sharing is similar to what you can share and gives you sort of an idea and a model of what you can do for yourself. So I was born and raised in Vermont. I live here again. And right after high school, I decided to move to the Big Apple in New York City. So a country girl went to New York City for 3 years. That was interesting. It was quite an experience. It was scary. And then it ended up being like one of the best experiences of my life. And while I was there, I was a journalism major. I was able to get an internship at the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather. If anybody remembers who Dan Rather is, just put I remember in the chat box. And then I came back from New York after I graduated, and I became a journalist and a videographer. Back in the days long before digital, when we were using, Michael, do you remember 3/4 inch tape or beta?
No. Yeah, beta, yeah.
Yeah.
Beta, yeah.
Well, the 3.2 video cameras that they used to have, so this was like late 89 into the early 90s, was hefty. It was big, and we had to have decks that had 3/4 inch tape. So like many journalists, if you're having a tough time making a living, you become a PR person. And so I went into the PR world, worked in nonprofits and for-profit organizations here in Vermont. And then one of the turning point in my life was when I became executive director of our statewide Women Business Owners Network. I met women who were doing the most incredible things as an entrepreneur and starting up their own businesses. And while I had my own business at the time, I was working as a part-time ED for WBON. And that's when I realized that I really wanted to work with people to help them promote themselves in a way that maybe they'd never thought of before that would not be expensive. And then I founded Standing Out Online in 2009. And I started focusing on the personal story, personal brand side as a PR tool, and also as a social media, using social media to your benefit. And then I started really focusing on LinkedIn, because it's really the most appropriate place to put your full story and your portfolio of other activities on LinkedIn. And now I work with clients all over the world, which is how I found Michael, though Michael's not a client, he's a peer. And I respect him immensely. And again, I thank you for being here today, Michael.
Bless you. It's my pleasure. Okay, just really very quickly about me. I'm a Dutchman. I came to the UK in '77, so I've been in this country now for 40 years. Spent all my time in kind of the corporate marketplace, working in the global textile industry in a number of companies, doing the whole supply chain. And then I finally left on Independence Day in 2005. And I didn't realize it was Independence Day. And literally when I drove away from the company that I was working for, I screamed in the car because I was so happy to be free and not work in corporate land anymore. So some of you still do, and that's absolutely okay, but it was my time to get out. I wasn't really sure where I was going to go. I did something totally different in the health industry, hence the name Staying Alive UK. I trained in some kind of health modalities, which I still know about. But after a few diversions, I'm here now as a storyteller. So you'll have to read my story. It's too long to go through right here, but yeah, I'm in the right place now. Like you said earlier on, I'm definitely in the right place.
Well, I was just noticing, Michael, that you left on July 4th, which, as many people know, is Independence Day in the States.
Yeah.
So you got your independence on Independence Day from a U.S. standpoint.
Absolutely. Well, I totally knew that.
Of course you did.
Yeah, totally knew that. So it was, yeah, wonderful. I hadn't planned it. It just so happened that it occurred on that date.
Great. Lee writes that she remembers Walter Cronkite, as do I.
Oh, I kind of vaguely remember the name, but I can't picture him.
So as we've been really emphasizing, your story is your greatest asset. It's one of the things that people overlook the most. But when you're building network connections, whether it's in person or offline, we're all captivated by stories. We all start a conversation sometimes when we meet people in person or even on the phone, and we say, "So what do you do?" And that's an okay question to ask, but you're so much more than what you do. You're so much more than your job title. So having conversations or having things written in your messaging for your marketing is what can make you stand out, because people are going to have that, what we call top of mind awareness about you, that they're going to relate to it. They're going to be relatable. It's going to be something they can self-identify with. So like, as I was talking about my story with working with Dan Rather, that's an example. And Michael's going from the textile industry into the world of social media and whiteboard animation. There's a story in between there. So, and it's yours, so it's unique, and people will remember you for that. So as we've said, everyone has a story, and stories captivate us. They get our attention. So for example, in your business bio or your About Me page on your website, if you're a solo entrepreneur, if you're on your LinkedIn, people, if you use those as teasers, if you use that nugget of your story as a teaser to get them to read more, you've captured their attention. It's just like a journalist who writes a news story or a feature. They write what's called the lead, which is the first sentence of a story. And the lead is what keeps you reading the article, because it hooks you in and it gives you information. So this is one of my favorite little sayings, is data sells and stories tell. So you still want data, of course. People are going to want to know that you've got credibility and credentials, but stories tell, and that keeps people interested and hanging around, if you will.
Definitely.
So we're going to help you identify your slice of life story, and some of the exercises that you can use are in my ebook. So please sign up for my ebook, and Jenny will be putting those links in the chat as we go. So the first thing I ask people to do is to ask people who are close to you. Perhaps pick some people, not necessarily all your family members, maybe your significant other, which would be great, but ask other people, former colleagues, current colleagues, maybe a past employer who really enjoyed working with you. Ask people you trust and ask them, describe something I do well and something that I do consistently well. What do you think are my strongest traits? When you think of me, what's the imprint on your mind visually and just in context? And ask them to do that by email, because people will be much more comfortable to write about what you mean to them, so to speak, or what they do think you do well in answer to these questions on the screen. And they'll feel comfortable to write you back versus asking people in person, because some people may be inclined to not say as much or say something making sure that they're careful not to hurt your feelings if they feel that there's something that maybe you're challenged by, but not in a negative way. So this is a really great way to have other people find out how they see you, because how we see ourselves is very different than how other people see us, and it can be very illuminating. As I said earlier, an ordinary story in your mind may actually be extraordinary. So think about that. Don't just shove off something that you think isn't worth it. So did you earn a degree in one thing and shift to another, kind of like Michael going from the textile industry into whiteboard animation? Is there a story that lies between one goal you had and another? A time you faced a problem or challenge and how you used your expertise to solve it. I'll give you a quick example. I worked with somebody, or I know of somebody who had been physically abused in her past, and she became a nonverbal communications expert analyst. And so the reason she did was because she really was tuned in at a young age in an unfortunate way to kind of detect what body language meant. And so becoming a body language expert for her really is literally somebody who was in those shoes. And so it makes her unique in her story when people want to hire her or go to her for her expertise. So we're going to switch over a little bit to personal brand. As I mentioned early on, that your personal story can really help define your personal brand. People wonder what your personal brand is. It's really your reputation. It's your integrity. It's your values. So what drives you? I like to stay away from the word passion. Everyone uses the word passion. And with all of the reading I do and the marketing I do with people, passion has become a very overused word. It's not a bad word, but I like to say what drives you, like what gets you in your gut. That is something that really kind of says passion, but yet makes you kind of think of it and visualize it a little bit, like what gets you to your core. What's your niche or focus? Your super specific skill set, or as I say sometimes, what's your superpower? You know, you may say that you're an industry expert in communications. What kind of communications? Telecommunications or like journalism, PR type communications? If it's one or the other, keep digging deeper until you really refine what it is that you feel that you are really the expert about. And then focus on that. Have that be part of your story or your professional story. I did this for Michael. These are the Dutch tulips because Michael's originally from the Netherlands. So how do you stand out? That's really what you want to think about as you're talking about what drives you and considering that.
And just to interject there, Kate, one of the things that I notice a lot of people do on their bios is they write in the third person. You know, in terms of, you know, standing out, really, is that how you want to come across, to write about? And I found a profile today, literally by accident, and there might be some engineers that are watching on replay or live, because I know some engineers were going to join. And I found one, not the people that were looking to join, just somebody I do not know. And the guy just literally said, you know, I'll change the name. It said, Jim is a structural engineer working, I won't say where. Experience includes detailed design of offshore structures and rail structures. Other notable projects are such and such, etc., etc. So it's like he's talking about somebody else, not about himself. You know, he doesn't even use the I word. He just talks about him, and it's so distant and not authentic, and there's no integrity behind those words. So they're just not memorable at all.
Right. Well, it's very resume-ish. It's very professional bio resume speak. And that has its place on a resume or a CV or other things. But you know, if you're using your online assets or your visual assets, you know, you really need to be in the first person. So you're spot on there. So talk about your problem solving ability. That's basically marketing comes down to that across the board. You know, people don't necessarily want to know how you do something. They want to know if they can achieve that you can achieve the outcomes that they need. They want you to solve their problems. So think about how you solve a person's problem. Figure out how you're going to message that, and keep that as a part of what you want to put in your messaging. And you know, some of this can really be done well in LinkedIn, but it can certainly be done well in your About Me page. Don't have it be all about you in the sense of how many years you've done something, where you went to college. All of those have their place, but not in the messaging that's really talking about who you are, what you know about your specific skill set, and how you can solve someone's problems. So that's what differentiates yourself from your competition, because I can guarantee you your competition is using that formulaic, sometimes in a third person, messaging. And that's what's going to help you stand out from the noise on social media. We're going to talk about how SEO plays a part in that. And SEO is search engine optimization. So it's the keywords and search terms that somebody might type in and Google, just like you do when you're looking for information, and try to find somebody like you, or you if they have your name. And then how do you stand out? Positioning yourself on appropriate platforms. Perhaps you're meant to be on LinkedIn and Twitter, but you have a Facebook business page and it's really not doing anything for you. Then maybe take the energy you've put into your Facebook business page and put it into something else where you are far better positioned. How are you networking? And this can be both in person and not. So we're going to do a little poll here. And we're going to give you a minute to answer this question in the chat or the Q&A. The chat's probably easier. So how are you networking? Are you using social media? You can say that. Local events like mixers or civic organizations. Are you networking on LinkedIn? And do you attend conferences? And that's the way you attend conferences and the way you network. Name another. So just put 1 or 2 words in the chat and let us know how you're networking. And I'll give you about a little less than a minute to put some of your answers in there, because that's something we'd really like to know. Social media can be Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram. And I don't mean necessarily in a fun way, although obviously that happens and people get to know the human side of you, but really true business networking. And a lot of that can be done in different ways. And Jenny, if anybody has anything really unique, feel free to pop in. So let's see. ATN says local events, LinkedIn a little, and conferences. Phil says LinkedIn and conferences. Eileen, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, conferences, local events. Bill joined a board committee. Great. That's a really great way to network. We'll go a little longer here. So Shelly, social media and network events. Steve, a mixture of all of the above. And Lee talks about social media, Facebook. She said she's spread too thin. That's the part of overwhelm that a lot of people have. And we want to not have to deal with that today. Sorry about that. Great. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so we're going to go back here. So attending conferences, super. Some of those conferences, make sure one thing that you can really do well before you go to a conference is find out if sometimes people do Facebook events or other things, or if you know of people that could be attending, is to connect with them on LinkedIn or Twitter before you go and set up a time to meet with them, especially if they're a potential client or just an industry peer or an influencer that you'd like to talk to. Use your networks before you get there. And then once you are there and you get to know people, then tweet about them or make sure you link up with them on LinkedIn and send them an invitation to connect. Are you scheduling informational meetings? This is something you can go down a rabbit hole and do too much of. But informational meetings, whether by Zoom or phone or in person, are great. And accepting and sending invitations to connect, whether it's through Facebook or LinkedIn. A lot of people say they're only going to connect with people they know, but they're doing themselves a disservice by only sticking to their tribe and not opening up that tribe. And you can open it up to people who seem relevant to what you do and expand your network that way. It's not about building up the numbers, it's about building up the quality. And of course, showcasing your experience. Okay, so social media, we've obviously been talking about that. But are you reading, this is another form of networking. Are you reading influencer and industry blogs? Are you following them on their social channels? And one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that journalists, and this is from a PR standpoint, use Twitter for story ideas. So if you are a Twitter user or if you're a Twitter listener, which is fine too, when you make an announcement about something or an event you're having, a webinar, for example, a workshop, is use Twitter. And use that to, I can't tell you, I've had maybe 3 or 4 journalists contact me for various things I'm doing, and some just seemed benign and not that interesting. And they called me up and did a story on that event, or about me on it, or got me on the news, or got me a press article. And I know many other people who use it that way as well. So we're going to just touch very briefly on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is definitely a great platform for you to be able to put your story and put in more information about who you are, the volunteer work you do, for example, recommendations. It's really the place for professionals, and it's a place where you can almost have a mini website of your story and how you help people solve their problems. So we're just going to touch on a few quick things that are really pieces of a LinkedIn profile that you should make sure you have. So I love talking about profile pictures with personality. Always try to have a clear, in focus shot, something preferably from the 21st century, not when you were 20 years ago. The gentleman on the left is the CEO of a renewable energy company. It's based in Vermont, but it's global in its mission. And so for him to have a picture taken in his casual way outside because of his renewable energy background is completely appropriate. The woman on the right, this is actually an outtake of her from the photo shoot. And it was because she was just laughing. She kind of tossed her head back, but she's a life coach, an executive coach, and she has clients all over the country. And so this just really showed her personality, and this is the one she went with. A couple more. The gentleman on the left is one of the top executives at the LinkedIn company. I do not know him, but again, I love how casual he is. He's not in a suit. And the gentleman on the right is David Newman. Some of you, like Sarah and others, may know him if you're on here. David is my business coach and mentor, and he's brilliant as well. And David's just a really great, fun guy. He's got a great personality, and his personality really comes through here. What you see is what you get. So here's what I'm talking about with an optimized headline. So this is where keywords and search terms come into play. And so you have 120 characters in your LinkedIn headline. Now, most people here put in their job title. And while that says something, most people, when they go online looking for someone like you, don't necessarily don't know your name. So they're looking for someone like you. So they're typing in keywords and search terms. So for this woman, body language expert, that's a really popular search term. These pikes here, you can use a pike or a bullet. Tell the robots that this is its own term. This is its own term. So nonverbal communications analyst. And then these don't necessarily need to be search terms, but this whole headline right here tells a little bit of a story in 120 characters, and that includes letters and spaces. David, the man you saw with his photo up here, his site is not meant to find customers, and it's not meant to sell products. He sells solar panels and wind turbines, so that's not what he's trying to do. But he is a public figure in the renewable industry world. So his profile actually serves as a place for journalists to get tons of information and resources on him. He also talks about his major philanthropy in the business world. So we put in intrepid entrepreneur just because it's a great visual. This is the only keyword term here: renewable energy industry, solar and wind energy industry, trained engineer. And then I advise my clients to always put in a little something quirky at the end. Again, it shows your personality. So the summary is definitely the meat of your profile. And in the new version of LinkedIn, you'll notice now that your summary is not in a block that used to be below your header. Now only the first two lines of your summary section show. And if people want to read more, they've got to click the See More link. So this means that the first two lines of your profile matter now more than ever, because you want to get people to click on that link. So as I was talking about hooking people's attention, this kind of says what I do, and then it goes into the rest of my profile. So this is actually the first two lines of my summary. So the beginning of your summary, this is again back to David's, the renewable energy guy. When I was interviewing him, he just happened to say this in the interview: I've been an energy guy my entire life. That's an eye-grabbing headline, and that will show in the first two lines of his summary. And then it also is the thing that begins his story. So he talks about how he used bicycle parts and a light bulb to electrify his maple sugar house. So that was how it hooked him in, and it humanizes him immediately. It brings visuals into your head. And Michael's going to talk a lot about that. So I'm not your typical financial advisor. This is another client. This is not the full summary, but this is what I call my 3-part recipe. Who you are, which is the story piece. What's the problem you solve, and how do you solve that problem? So if you're not one to write about this and you want to use bullet points, this is effective. Plus it breaks up the visual of text heavy, content. So there's more at the bottom, but this is a really good formula for you to think about how you're going to write your summary. And this carries over into other things like your profile, your about page, and things like that. So now we're going to shift gears a little bit. We're going to go into Michael's presentation, and these are other ways to tell your story. And of course, Michael's an expert at whiteboard animation, which is super cool. Your logos, ebook, and banner images for all of your social media. These are all ways to tell your story. So Michael, I think we're on to you.
Okay.
So can you take over, or do I need
to?
Yeah,
let me request the control.
There we go.
Thank you. Okay, let's get straight into it. There we go. So, well, the news is that the research is right. I went forward one too many there.
That's okay.
The research is right. Oh, it keeps jumping. That's brilliant.
Oh no. Is it
okay, let's try again. Now stay still. That's it.
Should I stop share on my side here? See if that works.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Okay. No, actually don't. No, don't stop it. Don't stop it.
Okay.
I said if you make sure your mouse is nowhere near those arrows, that's probably what's possibly doing it. Okay, we're straight into the other story now. Well, the research is right. Okay, when you are reading a story, you are creating what they're calling mental simulation of the events as described by the story in your brain. You are literally creating it. In fact, you are the biggest storyteller, which you probably didn't even realize. You are telling yourself many stories every single day. So the story that you saw earlier, I'm going to share with you now. I'd like you to just absorb this little story here, which you should be able to do in just a few seconds. And then I'm going to show you an alternative one as well. So hopefully you've read it by now. The alternative one is a little bit longer and there's more detail in it. A little bit like some of the stories that Kate was showing earlier from that guy, David. And this is about a dad, a husband who's traveling away from his family in Europe. But now we can see what really is the deal with him. Where is he and how is he feeling? And how's he feeling about being away from his 2-year-old daughter? And he's also in the peaked snow mountains in Europe somewhere, but he still has a great signal on his smartphone. The message is that he loves his modern technology, but now we are visualizing all of the other things that are going on at the same time, rather than just knowing that he likes his smartphone, because actually that is really boring. That's like the engineer saying that I build bridges. Okay, so why? And this story just pulls you in, draws you in, and makes it more memorable. And that's the point that we're trying to get across. And how am I doing that for clients is through something called whiteboard animation, which is literally simply some drawings that are occurring on a screen that allows you to absorb some of the information in a very gentle, but also quite childlike way. We're still kids at the end of the day. We all love cartoons. We're still drawn in by it. We could be 80 years old and we still love them. It doesn't really matter. And the artwork, if it's done well, will draw you in and get you interested to see what is going to happen next. And that's the beauty of it.
Some people, Michael, might remember, especially in the US, the UPS commercials that used to use the whiteboard animation in their advertising.
I have not seen them, so okay. I will definitely look them up.
Yeah, they're great.
And the thing is that there has been some research done as well, which I'm going to cover in a little bit. It's been done by a psychologist in the UK, a chap called Richard Wiseman. He did this with a company called RSA Animate. Most people will have seen some of these. They're quite long, the animations. They're usually about somebody doing a talk, but they're very engaging, and it just draws you in, and the story gets told in a very interesting way. But before I'm going to share the research, I'd like to just touch on something. For all of those people that know NLP, they will know VAK, which is visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Because you are revealing stories in whiteboard animation in short childlike drawings, you're being drawn in by that visual aspect. You hear a voiceover, you can also hear the story being told. There is some music, and even if that's chosen correctly, that will draw you in if it's nice to the ear. And then you need to be left with a feeling or an emotion, because that is the bit that makes it more memorable. Now, a lot of people say, oh, we've all got different learning styles. There are arguments for and against, and I won't go into that. But at the end of the day, we are all really visual. If I said to you, imagine your front door of your house, you can immediately get that image in your head. If you then had to describe it, you should be able to describe it, because you've been through that door plenty of times. So really, visual is something that we all own in a massive way. So the research was very simply, they took a talking head video and an animation video, and the story that was being told, or the bits of education that they were sharing, was exactly the same, but they just delivered it in two different formats. They took 1,000 people and they asked them to answer different questions about each video. So obviously they split the audience and they said, right, answer me these questions about the talking head video. So this was somebody just talking to camera. And by the way, not everybody is talented in talking to camera, because it's a really difficult job. And when people are on camera, as you will probably know, with whether it's Facebook Live or Instagram or Periscope, people do judge people that are on camera. I'm sorry, might be controversial, but you make, and that means you lose what they're saying. You can't hear them.
Right.
And what they discovered in this research, that the whiteboard animation, or any kind of animation, is not just whiteboard, but in this case it was whiteboard. It holds your attention for longer because you're drawn in. You want to see what is going to come next in the drawing. And they found that when they questioned these people, there was a 15% recall on what they had learned or what they had seen.
Wow.
For those of you who are in education, you will know that that is a massive, big percentage in terms of lift. So this is the talking head video versus the whiteboard animation video. And I won't go in through this whole infographic. This infographic is in my ebook, so when you download it, you'll get this anyway. The bit that I want to focus on the right-hand side, top right, is dopamine. Everybody kind of knows what dopamine is. That kind of pleasure chemical. It makes you feel good about the situation or about yourself. So lots of people that are addicted, you have a lot of dopamine for that particular addiction. That's why they keep doing it. But actually, you also get dopamine released in your brain when you get lots of likes and shares and comments on your social media posts, and you want more of it. But in this situation, in terms of storytelling, and it's not just whiteboard animation, it's the storytelling as a whole, the brain does release that dopamine because it makes you feel some emotion towards that particular event or what's happening in that story. And that's what's making it more memorable and with greater accuracy for longer. So now some tips that you can use in your storytelling. And this is what I try and look at when I develop a script or a storyboard for clients. And I'm still learning and experimenting with all of this. So it's a work in progress, but most of you will have heard of what a metaphor is. And there's some great examples there, like Kate and I love the one, which
I
is
love
I'm
that
trying
first
to
one.
climb, Everest in flip-flops. You immediately can see what's going on with that person.
Absolutely.
It's impossible to do it. Your feet are going to be very sore. I'm sure it's possible, but it's going to be very tough. And you can feel that person struggling to do that. And there are some other examples there as well, which are things that aren't real. They aren't possible, but it's a way of understanding what is happening for that individual. So here's an example of an advert that somebody created using metaphor, and you can immediately see what's happening. You've got birds flying, you've got fluffy clouds, you've even got an airplane at the top, you've got the word lightweight, you've got some balloons kind of bottom left above the word lightweight. I imagine that this was the house in the movie Up, where this elderly gentleman was being lifted up in the air because of all the balloons. And that's what came to me, but everybody has a different view of it. One thing's for sure, that the shoes are really, really light. Metonymy, difficult word to say. It took me a while to get around my teeth.
Not to be confused with monogamy.
Okay. And this is a type of metaphor, which is a concept which is a little bit harder to grasp, but it's a really, really important one. So it's a couple of examples there. I'll just talk about the White House one. Everybody gets an image of the White House in their mind right now. And then also you go further. You're now imagining, well, who else would have done that? Is it Donald? Is it the press people? Is it the advisors? Is it some judge? Is it, who are the people involved in making that statement? But everybody, there is some meaning that you're giving that instantly. You can't help yourself. That's what you do. And it's really important in storytelling. So here's another example. This is an ice cream. I think it's China or Japan. I think it's Japan. And there is no other information apart from those ice cream sticks going into those cows, which obviously is not very nice for people that are vegetarian or vegan, and there's no animal cruelty involved, but it's just giving you that image of being able to, connect with that. And here's another one from one of my clients that I did a whiteboard animation video for. And this is where the voiceover said that this company or this individual was at a crossroads and they didn't have a vision for the company any longer. Now, you can immediately see he's standing at a crossroads and the vision is being blown up with some dynamite because he doesn't have a vision for the organization anymore. And it just gives you that visual stimulation, which is really, really important. Okay, so something's happened to my... Okay, something moved on. Thank you.
Sorry.
So what? What's the point of all of this? Well, they have done some more research, and this is a university in the United Kingdom, together with people in Spain and also in China and some people in the Netherlands. And they put this in front of people, some of these adverts in front of people to try and get some research and some information back from them. And using metonymy and metaphor in storytelling, this is the key bit. It's rapidly understood, strongly appreciated, and has greater appeal. That's the big deal. And that's why it's important that when you're doing your storytelling, have a think about using metaphor and metonymy in sharing your story. And the important thing is here that it's like hypnosis. And this could last for weeks, if not months. So the recall, so if you imagine, the recall is higher anyway, using illustrations, using whiteboard animation, seeing things moving. There's a longer period that you're going to remember things. And you are also, through metaphor and metonymy, are going to remember and make it more meaningful in your brain, because you are having to construct the whole message in your brain from all of the information. And it all happens in split seconds. It's so quick. you don't even realize that you're doing it. And as I said, you are the biggest storyteller in your brain. That's it, Kate. That's all I have to share.
Thank you. So I need to get control back.
Yeah, let me get rid of it. Give up control. There you go.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. It's really fascinating. It sounds a little complex, and at the same time, it's interesting to know how we react to the stories. Again, it's shit that hits you in the gut and really makes you remember. It makes you memorable.
I think it takes something to get your head around to begin with, but once you understand it a bit more in terms of, do some practice and get people to read it and to, critique it, then you will get better at it.
Right. So what's next? So we're going to do another poll. Second one, last one. So we're going to start here. After this masterclass and what you've learned thus far, do you feel you have some of the tools needed to create a profile that will capture and captivate your audience's attention? So feel free to answer in the chat. Jenny, if there's anything you want to throw out, I can't see the chat right now, so maybe you can jump in if there's some interesting comments. But remember, it's capturing attention and it's captivating them. As Michael has said, the research shows that the connection is huge. It builds what's called TOMA, an acronym for top of mind awareness. You want to be seen as that go-to person, especially if you're an entrepreneur or somebody in an industry where you have some major expertise, excuse me, and you want to be known for that.
There's lots of yeses coming through, by the way.
Oh, good.
Chat. Yeah.
When I click the chat, it messes up the slide control. So I'm going to have to.
There are some yeses coming through. There's a yes, thank you. Would you be able to share the link to Michael's ebook, which we'll do shortly?
Yep.
And yes, some great ideas. Yes, must get to work on it. Yes, thank you. Lots of thank yous. Much more personal style going forward. Yeah. Great.
Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. It's always fun when you participate because it gives us an idea of if we're doing our job and you're finding value, and that we're also teaching you something that's understandable. So this is where people go, oh gosh, I don't know if I can do this. I have no idea. I'm not a good writer. But you can do this. Success with using your story in marketing is achievable. It's a step-by-step process. It's a bit of a slow dance. But once you make it happen, you've got that foundation and you can pull from that foundation as you go forward in your career or your business. So I have 2 exclusive offers for you that are only being offered within today's webinar. I'm offering a LinkedIn laser session, which I will get into more detail on, and the Standing Out Online makeover. And hang in there just a little bit longer for another few minutes to get the bonus gifts. There's 2 of them. They're free. One of them from Michael is absolutely amazing. It's an e-course, which we'll find very valuable. So the LinkedIn laser session is working with me one-on-one. It's to really take your LinkedIn profile, obviously in this case, from 0 to hero. And even though I'm talking about LinkedIn, it's a tool and it's one of many. So some of the work that we do, even though it's for your LinkedIn, is all work that you can use for your other stories, for the other positions that you live on, the other platforms, your bio, your About Me page. So it's not just for LinkedIn. It can be used in many, many places. Plus, it kind of gives you a foundation to your so-called 30-second elevator speech. So I'll give you an in-depth audit and review of your profile page. I'll help you identify your slice of life story. I will give you immediate steps for your profile to be optimized and teach you a simple way to test keywords and search terms for your niche. And it's all done with me by phone or Zoom, like we're on today, and I can record it, and then you have it for referral afterwards. So really, it's a role that I play of keeping you accountable, mentoring you, and helping you get some focus to make this all happen. So some of you said something you needed to do, and you got to get started and kind of kick yourself in the rear and get moving. This LinkedIn laser session will help you. And then just here is some other things that some of my clients have said that I've really worked with a lot of people. I've spoken to a lot of groups where I'm always trying to give people tangible takeaways and talking about LinkedIn, but also talking about just tailoring your story to use in other ways. The gentleman on the left, Lee Duncan, is the executive president of a huge insurance group in Atlanta, the Alliance Group. They also have financial advisors. And so I went and spoke to their group in Atlanta to teach their managing general agents how they could be telling their stories. Financial advisors, especially ones that are tied with the regulatory financial advisors, which the high-end ones are, really have a tough time on social media because they're so regulated by the SEC that there's the only social media that they can use is LinkedIn. So I do work with people to help them try to find their story and do it in a way where compliance will accept you. The second offer I'm doing today, and this is an unusual one, this is a Standing Out Online makeover. This is a deep dive, and I really want to help you take your profile from blah and boring to, again, really focus on your story. That's a big, big part of it, as I showed you in my presentation. Building that top of mind awareness. This is all one-on-one coaching and mentoring with me. At the end of this session, I do a hands-on shared screen meeting so that we go into your profile and we work on your questions, how to navigate, especially the new version, right, Michael?
Yeah, that's right.
Using the LinkedIn publisher to showcase your thought leadership. So if you're already writing a blog and you're putting it on your website, you can repurpose that to be used in your LinkedIn, and I work with you on how to do that. And then I also work on how you can use LinkedIn for lead generation. So this is the deeper dive, and here's your investment for both. So the LinkedIn Laser session is an advisory consulting type of arrangement, giving you lots of helpful, valuable tools. And I'm offering that for $497. The offers for both of these are good until midnight tomorrow night on Friday. And we'll give you the links for those if you're interested. We'll also be sending out emails with replays and the links in tonight and tomorrow for all the people who registered. And the LinkedIn makeover, I hate the word makeover, but I couldn't think of another good word. And frankly, it's a good visual, right, Mike? Right, Michael?
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, you don't need lipstick or makeup though. So, and the price is $13.47. So I normally do this for people for $14.97. And I am making this available for you joining the webinar at $13.47 in the next essentially 48 hours or a little less than that. So here are your fast action bonus gifts, and these are something that you can take advantage of right away now, and Jenny will put the links in. So Michael and I just created, yesterday in fact, an exclusive private Facebook group, which will run, you know, for forever essentially. And you're all invited to it, and you'll have direct access to Michael and me at any time to answer questions about identifying your story, marketing in general, or LinkedIn questions, which people have all the time because the platform's changing all the time. So when you post in there, we get notified and we can go in and answer your questions. We may not be able to answer them immediately, but you'll catch our attention and you should get a pretty quick response. So there's the link, facebook.com/group/standingoutonline. And then this is the big one, and this is completely free. Michael has put together 51 lectures about LinkedIn with 8 hours of content on a video e-course. And he's giving you lifetime access and free updates. And he's giving you a coupon code on his link, and that offer is good until July 7th. So I can't encourage you enough. This is a huge, huge bonus. And these things, you know, normally cost a fair amount of money. So thank you, Michael, for being so generous to our attendees today to offer them this. If you want to throw in a couple comments about what they get or in a sample, that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you. It's absolutely my pleasure. And, you know, we would love for people to become better storytellers. And we know that LinkedIn is one great place to start doing that. But we also know there are some basic things that you've got to look after and take care of. So it isn't just about, you know, how to upload a photograph. In fact, there's none of that. This is a pretty advanced course as well. And there's some other tips and strategies and tactics that are in there. And I will continue to add to that as well. So, you know, this is just amazing value. as part of the whole package, really. So when people buy your service, Kate, they're getting this as a freebie included in that. So
Yes.
I think it will be just awesome.
There's a lot of value being put out to you all today. And if for some reason you have to jump off, you will get the replay. These offers are good until midnight tomorrow night. That's both the offers that I've given and then the bonus gifts. So what's next? You can select from one of the two offers. You can, here's the link, and Jenny will put that in there, the LinkedIn laser session page, which is the page that explains more detail what I give you. And if you want to buy, that's the pay button is right there. It does take you to PayPal, which isn't my favorite, but you can use any credit card there. And or you can purchase the Standout Online on LinkedIn Makeover page, and there is the link for that as well. And then after your payment's been received, you'll receive a personal email from me, and we'll get ready, getting scheduled for our first call for either of the programs that you select. And we'll get things in the queue and get you up and started and getting you relieved of the struggle you're feeling with how to tease out your own story. So don't forget the bonus gifts. That's why they're a bonus. And Jenny will probably keep copying these in there.
Kate, there's a question that's come up. Say, just to be clear, there's somebody's asking, the free bonus offers are only for people who purchase the one or two of your offers?
No. These are free no matter whether you buy one of my offers or not. So these are available when the emails go out. These links will be available. They're just only available until midnight tomorrow night, as well as the offers I have, the special offers on the two packages that I'm offering. Does that answer everybody's question?
I think so. I'm just having a look. We just had a little bit of a blip on people seeing the links, but that's now been fixed. And there you go.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think all the links have now gone out to everybody. So yeah, awesome.
Great. And it'll come in the emails to you too. And there's 3 emails just as reminders with a little more information, and all the links are in there for everything too, in case you just didn't get a chance to write them down. So we really appreciate you joining us today. We're going to go into the Q&A here for people who have any specific questions. We'd love for you to connect with us today and share your story with us. It's just interesting to hear what people have experienced, the kinds of things they're doing for their goals and their businesses. We love to hear that. And Michael and I truly, unlike some other people who are in this world of online marketing and internet influencers, I'm really proud of the fact that we pay attention and we really do answer people's questions as best we can. We love to get to know you. As storytellers, it's near and dear to our heart. So connect with us on Twitter, certainly on LinkedIn for sure. We each put out a lot of content on updates and things like that when there's frustrating things going on with LinkedIn, or new updates that are fabulous. So please feel free to start popping in your questions. So I'm just going to click this this clock to start ticking down. We've got 15 minutes. But if we need to stay on longer, we want to make sure we answer all your questions as best as possible. So again, maybe I can now. I think I can see the chat. Does it show up on the screen? Can you actually see what I'm looking at?
Yeah. Yeah, the Q&A. Yeah, the counter. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is showing people's names. So, Michael, do you mind reading?
Oh no, I can't see your chat. No.
Oh, I thought you could see the chat. Okay.
No, sorry, I misunderstood. I was just reading some of the questions because there was a problem with the link to the course, which I've now shared again.
Okay, have you reshared it?
So I'm gonna let me just go and test it while you keep talking.
Okay. All right.
I just need to.
So on the Bill asks about the whiteboard animation. Do you teach us how to do it or create it for us?
Oh, well, that's a really great question, and I've tested the link that I've just shared, by the way, and it does work. So hopefully people can get in. So my business is really about creating them for people. And I haven't got into teaching people how to do it. That's the honest answer. And that's not my business strategy at the moment. But if somebody already has software and they'd like to, you know, get a better idea of what to do, I'm always willing to share a few pointers. That's no problem at all. But I don't generally go in and teach people how to create it. My business is more about creating it for people, because it's not just the creation of the whiteboard, the illustrations, it's also the script writing, the storyboarding, it's the whole package.
Right. So thank you, Michael. I look forward to the day when I get you to do my first personal story whiteboard video. I can't wait. Michael actually very generously created a fun little one for our webinar today. So thank you again for that, Michael.
No problem.
So we have another great question from Lee. How personal should the story be? That's a great question, Lee. Again, when we're working together and we're teasing out your story, we're teasing it out as we work together in a longer form standpoint. And then the key and the trick is to take the nugget of that story and put it into a way that you feel comfortable with, but yet still makes you relatable, that people kind of go, wow, you know, now she's really had that boots on the ground experience, and I can totally see how that plays into her profession. So we talk about the personal story and having it be relevant to your skills, your drive, the reason why you do what you do, and then we weave that story in, we finesse it in with your professional story. So I hope that answers your question, Lee. Let's see. Thank you, Jenny, for putting the links in there for everybody. You've been great on getting all that out. Okay, Lee, I'm glad I've answered your question. Anybody else? I want to make sure everybody's links are working. I think that's the case. Michael, just make a note to make sure you resend that link to me and Jenny, so that we can test them in the emails that we have scheduled to go out, make sure it's the correct one.
Sure, will do.
Okay, thank you.
Kate, this is Jenny. We have a question that came through via email.
Oh, great, go ahead.
So the question is, how do you overcome the paralysis of writing the perfect profile, that fear that your profile won't be perfect, so you just don't start writing it?
Great question. There's the pain point we solve, right, Michael?
Yeah, it's a great one.
So I think that message was directed at you, Michael, so go ahead.
Oh, okay. Just so it's what about the personal story?
You want to read it again, Jenny, please?
Sure. So the question is, how do you overcome the paralysis of writing the perfect profile, that fear that your profile just won't be perfect, so you don't start writing it at all?
Okay, well, I can answer that too, but that's more of a Kate question, I thought.
Well, okay. So the paralysis part is hard, which is, we'll go back to that very first exercise that I gave you, and it's also more in depth in my ebook, is to start out with those questions. Pick 5 people, pick 7 if you want. Don't pick too many because you'll get overwhelmed. And send out that email asking some of the questions that I posed in the beginning of this. How am I memorable to you? How do you see me solving problems? What do you think my strengths are? And then you'll start to really get a hint of where you can start, because that's the hardest part, is where do I start? And that is the part that has been effective for all of my clients to get started in this process. When I work with my clients, I interview them in the role as a journalist and really try to tease that story out. And a lot of times again, like we said in the beginning, a lot of times it's not at all what they thought it might be. And so it ends up being even deeper and more interesting. Let's see. ATN asks, Michael, this is for you. What are the typical lengths and uses for whiteboard stories and associated cost ranges?
Great question.
Well, the cost stuff is on your website, so we don't have to, we can stayingalive.uk.com. So the price ranges are there, ATN, on his website.
That's right. Just go to my website. There's a price list there that you can review. Typically, the length really depends. My advice would be try and keep certainly under 2 minutes. If you can make it even shorter, like 1.5 minutes or even a minute or even 30 seconds. People's attention spans now are really, really short. They are watching stuff in Facebook that if it doesn't interest them, they just scroll on. Right. You know, so I would say somewhere between 30 seconds and 1.5 minutes tops, and that means it's less than 150 words. and people really struggle because they want to share everything in their story. And the thing is, you can't, and neither is anybody going to absorb everything anyway. You just need to share enough to get people curious and give them wanting more, you know, just leave them hanging a little bit as well, because people want to hear the rest of the story, but that's where they can pick up the phone or send you an email and listen to the full story by speaking to you. So it's not always about, I'm going to tell you my life story in a whiteboard animation or any kind of animation. It's about just getting them onto your hook, you know, get the fish on the hook, and then you can do something with it.
It's interesting what you said, Michael. It goes back to that person's question about paralysis, is that once you just figure out what your story is, you actually start to just overflow. Like it keeps spilling out, and then you've kind of got to reel it in a little bit so that we can, you know, find the nugget that's really got the most impact. So it's funny, once you discover it, or somebody says, and you have that aha moment, so to speak, then it just really starts to flow.
That's it. Yeah. And the thing is, you keep thinking of new things, and that is good,
Right?
Because then you have a whole library of different stories you can use. And you know where it's really useful? At networking events.
Yeah, exactly.
When you have to stand up and do like a 60-second commercial, rather than go, hello, I'm Michael D. Groot, I do whiteboard animation and storytelling. It's like boring, you know. So, but if I tell a story about perhaps a client that I've assisted and how that story resulted in them getting business, then that is far more interesting to people.
Absolutely. Michael, it says the Facebook, somebody wrote and said the Facebook link says it's not available yet.
Okay, we need to, it's private, of course. That's why.
Oh,
one
that's
of the
right.
reasons. So that people can't kind of log into it straight away, but it should be there, and people should be able to see it, and they should be able to request to go in.
So Linda, thank you for posing that. Anybody else who's listening, if for some reason you have an issue, please email me after this, kate@standingoutonline.com, and we'll be sure to make sure that that's working, and then let you know when that's working. So let's see, I think we have one more question. Bill asks, what are good rules of thumb to get my brand out there using LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter? Let's see, I'll start. You can come in on Michael.
Sorry,
okay?
I was just messing around on Facebook. Say again, what was the question?
The question is, Bill asks, what are good rules of thumb to get my brand out there using LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter?
Rule of thumb, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to speak to LinkedIn and a little bit about Twitter, and then maybe you can pop in on Facebook.
Yeah, I will.
So, LinkedIn is definitely the place where you as a person and your story can live as its own little mini website. A lot of the story and the information that's there will be carried over into the About Me page on your website or into your bio. But the good rules of thumb as far as posting is you can post articles. I suggest to people, if they, to not be in overwhelm mode, try to do one article a month. And as far as posting, if you can post at least 3 times a week in an update in the newsfeed piece, sharing other content or sharing some of your own, then that's a really good rule of thumb to get started on using LinkedIn in an engaging way. As far as Twitter, many people are confused by it still, and it is a little bit more complex to get used to than something like Facebook. But Twitter, if you don't want to tweet and you don't want to be active on it, it's a great place to listen. So you can follow people, industry influencers, even people who may be contrarian to what you do, and you just see what they're saying. And you can listen. So you can go in there and see what's going on. And again, as I mentioned before, it's also where journalists live to find story ideas. So if you want to get some bandwidth from your thought leadership and your articles and your workshops and things like that, use Twitter for that reason specifically. Thanks for asking, Bill. And maybe, Michael, you could speak to the Facebook piece.
Yeah, so Facebook is an interesting one because for years, literally for years, I've heard people say, Facebook is personal and it's private and LinkedIn is business, right? And the two will not meet. Well, I have news for you. all of them are meeting. It's somewhere in the middle now. And, you know, even LinkedIn, people are posting some private stuff there too. And it's about the person. And I think it really depends on your business too. But yes, you need a Facebook page for sure. But even your own personal network, you should look to, you know, grow that and also share business stuff with them. One thing, and we're experimenting with that, and for some reason I've obviously not done something right with the group because people can't find it, and that's because I set it to secret, and I should have put it down to, you know, closed, which I've just changed, by the way. But groups is a great way to engage with people, even business people. Unfortunately, LinkedIn haven't done a good job with their groups, so I think Facebook is a great place for groups. And also creating events is a wonderful thing to do, and to get your brand out there on events. And of course, you know, I'm not promoting Facebook. I don't work by them, for them, but you know, you can create some little adverts there that are very inexpensive and get a bigger reach. It's more expensive on LinkedIn. They are doing better now with their advertising, but Facebook is still doing better in terms of the amount of money that you have to pay for ads
Yeah.
and things.
Yes. Another person commented that the newbie needs to be on the listen mode in LinkedIn too for groups and homepage newsfeed. Correct? And yes, you're right. Exactly. Certainly paying attention to the newsfeed, which is under the home button on LinkedIn, is key. Michael and I have it on pretty good authority from LinkedIn, not necessarily from the company, but solid rumor, if there's such a thing, that groups are sort of being phased out. And what I've seen happen is some of the groups that were really robust are actually switching over to Facebook private groups. I belong to about 8, which sounds like a lot, but I'll tell you what, the richness of those conversations is very meaningful, and I learn a lot, and it's a fabulous place for networking. And just do remember that with these groups and the things that you do, don't be salesy. You know, you can show your thought leadership. You can share a blog that you want to be helpful. But remember, you want to be in helpful mode, not in selling mode. Because when you do that, then that's going to probably bring people to you because they're going to want to do something and work with you because they've given you some value. I hope I've done that today in case either any of you sign up for either of my offers. You know, I've given you some solid tools and value today, as has Michael. And you know, we're here for you, which is exciting about building that Facebook group because you will all be the first ones in there. And
so I've just accepted a few people that have requested access. So we got some new members in now. That's brilliant.
Great. Thanks for fixing that, Michael. Another person says LinkedIn groups work well to be found for people outside your network. Doesn't have to be first, second, and third degree connections. That's very true. As far as right now, we don't know if or when LinkedIn's really going to get rid of groups, which seems like another shot in the foot for them. But if the ones that you belong to, some of them, if you go there, when you get there, it's like you hear crickets and there's not much going on. But you can also just tell quickly as a scan going into that group to see when the most recent post was, the conversation and the dialogue that's going on in there. A really good moderator is going to keep the conversation going. And so if that's the case, then stay in there because it may stay on. We don't really know what the future is for LinkedIn groups, but we've heard that it's possibly in jeopardy, if you will.
Yeah, and that would be a real shame, but
it would be.
They're probably going to replace it with something that Microsoft owns.
That's what I think. Vivica Von Rosen and I have talked about that maybe there's going to be something else coming along that's actually going to be even better. We just we don't know yet. So
yeah, it's probably going to be a product that Microsoft owns, and they're probably going to,
I would imagine
something like that. You know, right. Who knows? It's all interesting stuff. I love the fact that all these social media platforms are in constant beta. You know?
Yeah.
And we are the testers. We are the laboratory.
Yes. So we had asked if you're allowed to share this presentation with colleagues and or clients. I don't see why not. You would just have to forward them the link that you'll get in the replay. Because I don't have the link yet for the Zoom call because we're not done. somebody asked about Yammer versus LinkedIn. I'm
Oh,
not very familiar
Yammer.
with Yammer. Is that a European thing?
No, it's
Oh.
a US thing. Microsoft own them now.
Huh.
And it's Yammer. I used to love Yammer until Microsoft took it away from the public and put it inside Microsoft. And I don't use Microsoft, so I can't get it anyway. But it's mainly used in corporate organizations. Effectively, it's the corporate Twitter. But it was a lot more than that. You could do a lot more, attach files. It's a little bit, Kate, like Workplace by Facebook.
Oh, okay.
We're using. It's a similar tool. It's like a workplace kind of social media tool and sharing and conversation. So rather than, so like Slack, you
Okay.
know, it's Yammer is like Slack. So yeah, Yammer could potentially be a product that they will morph into LinkedIn somehow.
That's what I was just going to say. That would be
Yeah.
interesting, because if it was a Microsoft tool and then they pulled back on it, perhaps they're renovating it, so to speak, to then maybe that's going to get rolled into LinkedIn. So that'll be interesting if we ever look back, if that happens and we look back on this.
Yeah, I mean, the only difficulty, of course, is Yammer is like a corporate tool that people use in organizations, and it's, you know, exclusive,
Right.
not public. So they may have to change it again and put it and redesign it to make it public again, because
Right.
it wasn't. But it was a great tool and much better than LinkedIn Groups is today, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And just so that people understand what we're talking about, we were talking about Workplace on Facebook. Workplace is a brand new feature that just came out in the last, 2 weeks, Michael?
No, it's been out longer.
Oh, well, I guess they've been doing a lot bigger push on the advertising to use it then.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, especially if you go into your business page, there's a thing at the top now that says, you know, do you have Workplace yet? So anyway, it's a great place. It's kind of like a Slack. Michael and I used it this last week or two to talk about getting prepped for the webinar. And we could post files there. So our slide decks could go in there. It takes up to 100 megabyte file. And we can have conversations back and forth. And then you'll get a notice in your email saying that, you know, Michael sent you a message. And you can have as many people as you want in there from your organization. So
Yeah.
that's been huge. The person that asked about Yammer said Workplace has been in for 2 years because it was in beta. So that's probably true.
Everything is always in beta.
Yeah. Heck, we're in beta.
That's right. I think that's called life, isn't it?
Exactly. I'm going to use that term, though. That's kind of fun. So does anybody else have any other questions? Etienne is laughing at that remark.
Well done.
But does anybody have any other questions? Or Michael, can you think of anything that you'd like to add that perhaps we didn't touch on, even just briefly?
Well, I have a question for you, which is about, I mean, I guess it's about your background in public relations and journalism and, you know, TV and all of that area. And I think I watched a TED Talk today by, I don't even know who the fellow's name is. It's a new TED Talk that came out in the last week or so. It's by a guy in India, and he talks about, he's an actor, like a Bollywood actor, and he's really, really famous over there, and he's like Mr. Romance, you know, because he's in these romantic movies, and he's a really, really funny TED Talk. But, you know, there is this desire by everyone to, you know, be famous and want to get in front of everybody. And so what's your take on that, you know, celebrity status, like business celebrities, and wanting to become known for something and have that reputation, and then link that with your story in effect? So do you have a feeling about that, and that desire that people have to become that famous business celebrity in their field?
Somebody just wrote, "Oh my God, my worst nightmare is to be famous."
Oh, right. Yeah, there you go.
It's certainly something that I can just give my thoughts on. There's no hard and fast rule for it, for sure, because a lot of that is going to be a famous response to anything marketing is it depends. So if that person is if that person's been a celebrity from the standpoint of being a socially, social culture type celebrity, is that when some of those celebrities want to become known as a thought leader, whether it's political or it's a self-awareness kind of thing, or perhaps they've beaten an addiction and they want to share their story, then they can use that platform that they already have established to really be effective in telling their story and having it touch people to make change. So that's one piece of it. But for people who are wanting to be sort of social selling influencers or social selling online marketing celebrities, so to speak, there's certainly Gary Vaynerchuk out there, and certainly he's great. I personally have gotten a little tired of him, but he's got a huge following. He knows his stuff. And I think
that's really interesting that you say that, because I'm exactly the same.
Yeah. And you know what? I would say everybody I talk to feels similarly. And perhaps it's because we're sort of in this space a little bit. I personally am not trying to become famous. I really, truly love what I do, and I love working with people, and I love helping. In fact, I got kind of going off topic here a little bit, but I got an email from a client of mine the other day whom I just helped over the winter. She was an executive and was looking to she was in career transition, wanting to take her executive skills in one thing and go into something completely different. And she wrote me an email the other day, which said that she'd found the job she was hoping to get in a medical facility. And she was going to be doing exactly what she wanted to be doing. And she gave me some kudos and some appreciation for the help I gave her and the support I gave her, not just in working together, but beyond that. And that was very, very rewarding. It still kind of gives me goosebumps to get that kind of an email and know that I truly did help somebody get where they needed to go. And they did it in a way that they never thought they would be possible for them to do.
Yeah.
It took them out of their comfort zone to talk about themselves in a personal way and tie it into the professional. So anyway, then the people who want to be, well known on something, becoming a thought leader is a really great thing. My business coach, David Newman, said to me once, he said, you really should call yourself a LinkedIn expert or a social selling expert. And I said, I'm never going to use the word expert. That sounds really boastful. And he said, but the definition of an expert is someone who keeps on learning. They may know more than someone else, but they keep learning. And I love that. So now I don't struggle with the word expert at all.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I that's really interesting, because if you're a lifelong learner in terms of honing your craft and continuously learning about how you can change it and develop it and improve it, and then that's absolutely important. And you're right, I've had trouble with that word expert as well, because actually everybody is a LinkedIn expert, because if you're already using it, then you're an expert, right?
Right. And you're always learning. So we had a comment from Linda, Michael. She said she'd like to speak to you about a project for a CPA firm. Would you share your email address? So if you're okay with sharing that, would you put that in the chat?
Yeah, absolutely.
And someone else said, great job by both of you. Thanks for the tips. Another person, thanks for an interesting and inspiring webinar. I got some useful information from both of you. Thank you very much. If you look in the chat, Michael, there's a message from, I can't pronounce this person's name. It's Saumya.
Yeah, I clicked on the link. Yeah, okay. It's brilliant. Thank you so much. It's a whole, I can't believe it's a Google Doc with a load of TED Talks, links to TED Talks. It's absolute. It goes on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. It's just amazing, and it has all the descriptions in it. And I've never come across this. And yeah, that's absolutely awesome. Thank you so much.
And those are, for those of you that are still in the chat, Etienne is a resume expert, which she truly is. She works with people to create case studies of what they do to really make their resumes very different than the average resume. And Etienne and I, she's actually nearby me here in Vermont. She and I work together sometimes with clients on a collaborative way, and they get the benefit of working with Etienne on the resume and working with me on the LinkedIn. And then we work together in the background to help really make them stand out and really differentiate themselves in a very deep way.
Excellent.
Shomo or Shumo. Anyway, thank you.
Shumo. Okay.
Shumo, okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Let's see. Linda said maybe you can share the TED Talk list in the Facebook group, but yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Show
Totally.
you Mo. There we go. He wrote it phonetically.
Okay. Show you Mo.
Yeah.
Show you Mo. Okay. Yeah. So I think you can definitely.
Jenny just put the Google Doc of the TED Talks in there.
Okay. I think I need to approve it.
Well, does anybody have anything else, or we think we're good for today? I really, really, really appreciate you all being here. I would love the opportunity to work with you on some level. Excited to have you into the Facebook group. It'll be there all the time. That's not something that's going to go away. Conversation and dialogue there is great. Nice thing about the Facebook groups too is you can upload a file. So if somebody does write their story, in a sense for an online platform, one of us is happy to take a quick look-see at it.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then we can also answer LinkedIn questions or challenges, because a lot of people are still getting used to the new LinkedIn 2.0, as I call it. And many people are thanking us for staying on for the overflow conversation. We actually kept quite a few people on, so that's great. So I think we're good, and everybody will get a replay of this. And just remember the bonus offers of the Facebook group, that's going to be there, but the link for that is there. Michael's offer for his LinkedIn lectures video e-course in Udemy is available till tomorrow night at midnight, actually 11:59 Eastern time. And then my two offers, the LinkedIn laser session and the Standing Out on LinkedIn program, which is the deeper dive, will both be available at those bonus pricing till tomorrow night as well.
Perfect. That sounds amazing.
So thank you, everybody. And we're going to sign off. And I'm so excited that you all were here. This was really fun. Thank you, Michael, too.
And thank you, Kate, for organizing this and putting this up and putting this together. It was really fabulous. And I got some great value from it too, and great value to engage with everybody, and some great questions as well. And always learning. So absolutely superb.
Yes. So everybody will get the replay. You'll get 3 emails just as reminders in case you miss one. And please connect with us online. And I hope you downloaded our ebooks, because you'll get a lot more value there as well.
Great.
Okay. Well, thank you again.
Kate.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you,
Take care.
Jenny. Yes, bye-bye.
Bye for now. Bye.